LeBron. History tonight. The first father-son duo to play together.
Imagine this. You're born with the ultimate genetic lottery, destined to follow in the footsteps of a basketball legend. The world expects greatness from you, and all eyes are on you from the moment you step onto the court. Your father is a Hall of Famer, and you've got the skills to match. Or so they thought. Today, we're diving into the shocking stories of NBA Nepo babies, the sons of some of the greatest basketball players to ever live, who couldn't live up to the hype. This isn't just a tale of failure, it's a deep dive into the pressure, the expectations, and the harsh reality of trying to follow in a legend's footsteps. We start with Zaire Wade, the son of Dwyane Wade, one of the NBA's all-time greats. Zaire was a basketball prodigy from the get-go, drawing attention even in middle school. The moment he picked up a basketball, he was already being compared to his dad. You couldn't help but wonder if this was the second coming of Flash. With a smooth game and a name that screamed legacy, Zaire was bound for stardom. Or at least that's what we all thought. As part of the new wave of basketball mixtape culture, Zaire found himself in the spotlight quickly. Mixtapes went viral. Highlights of his high-flying dunks and slick crossovers were everywhere. He was the next big thing, a future NBA star with an NBA father. What could go wrong? But there's more to this story than just highlights and viral videos.
Zaire Wade has always lived in the shadow of his Hall of Fame father, Jazz part owner Dwyane Wade, but after getting drafted by the Salt Lake City Stars of the G League.
Despite his viral fame, Zaire's career didn't follow the clear path to stardom we all expected. It was a harsh reminder that talent doesn't always equal success, especially when you're carrying the weight of a legendary last name. Zaire's journey took a dramatic turn when he transferred to Sierra Canyon, a basketball powerhouse, for his senior year. Teaming up with Bronny James, LeBron James' son, there was no shortage of attention on this new basketball super team. It was supposed to be Zaire's breakout moment. With all eyes on him, how could he not succeed? Well, things didn't go as planned. Injuries hit hard, and Zaire was limited to just 3 games that season. To make matters worse, he only averaged 4 points a game. In a program full of 5-star talents like Amari Bailey and Brandon Boston, it was hard for Zaire to carve out a role. With his limited playtime, the pressure mounted. It wasn't long before Zaire's father, Dwyane Wade, publicly criticized the coaching staff for not giving Zaire enough opportunities. As much as Dwyane Wade was standing up for his son, it became clear that Zaire hadn't earned his place on the floor. This was a critical turning point. The road from high school stardom to college ball and beyond suddenly felt like a long and uncertain one. After high school, Zaire took a path that no one really saw coming. He joined the G League, bypassing college basketball entirely. Now, we've all heard the debate about the G League and whether it's a stepping stone to the NBA or a dead end. But in Zaire's case, it turned out to be a disaster. Here's the thing, the G League is not a magic fix. It's a league full of hungry, talented players all trying to prove themselves. And Zaire, despite all his potential, was simply not ready. The competition was tough, and Zaire's flashy style didn't translate well to the professional level. With just 9.2 points per game, shooting 26% from the field, and a pitiful 18% from beyond the arc, the cracks in Zaire's game were exposed for all to see. His lack of consistency, particularly his inability to hit a jumper and struggle with his right hand, became glaring weaknesses. His father had hoped the G League would give him the developmental boost he needed, but it only highlighted his rawness. It was clear Zaire Wade wasn't NBA ready. The truth of the matter? Despite everything, his father's legacy, his high school accolades, and his genetic gifts, Zaire couldn't even secure a spot in the G League for long. The G League didn't want him, and if the G League doesn't want you, the NBA sure isn't knocking on your door. Imagine being the son of a Hall of Famer, having access to everything you need to succeed, and still not making it. Zaire's journey is a stark reminder of how privileged backgrounds can sometimes become a hindrance, rather than a help. Growing up with all the right connections and financial stability, it's easy to forget what it really takes to fight for a spot in the NBA. Zaire didn't have the same hunger and drive that someone like Dwyane Wade had to fight through obstacles early in his career. The odds stacked against him were not the same as his father's. Trying to stay relevant and rebuild his career, Zaire took another shot at redemption by joining the Basketball African League (BAL) in 2023. But even then, things didn't go according to plan. He appeared in just 4 games, averaging just 4 points per game. The critics were quick to pounce, but Zaire kept his head down and tried to tune them out. The question remained, would he ever find his way into the NBA? His time in Africa was brief, and the fact that he didn't show enough growth during this stint meant that any hopes of an NBA comeback started to fade away. This was another reminder that talent and last names only get you so far. The rest is up to the individual. Zaire isn't the only NBA son to struggle under the weight of his father's legacy. Let's talk about Patrick Ewing Jr., the son of one of the greatest centers in NBA history. Patrick Ewing's legacy loomed large, and his son was expected to continue the family tradition. But things didn't go as planned. After a successful high school career, Patrick Jr. ended up at Georgetown just like his father. The pressure was immense. However, it became quickly clear that he wasn't quite on the same level as his legendary father. At 6'8", he had the size but not the length or skill to dominate in the way his father did. His athleticism and hustle weren't enough to compensate for the lack of a polished offensive game. Despite playing for his father's alma mater, Patrick Jr. was never able to escape the shadow of his father's greatness. Patrick Ewing Jr. eventually declared for the NBA draft, but his journey wasn't as smooth as everyone had hoped. He was drafted in the second round, but his time in the NBA was short-lived. After bouncing between the Sacramento Kings and the New York Knicks, he couldn't make a significant impact. After a brief stint in the G League, he was eventually released, and it became clear that the NBA wasn't the right fit for him. So he took his talents overseas. While he stayed involved in basketball, his name never held the same weight as his father's. Playing in Greece, Spain, and Germany, Patrick Ewing Jr. continued his basketball career, but he would never escape the legacy of his father's Hall of Fame career. And then we have the Jordan brothers, Jeff and Marcus Jordan. These two faced perhaps the most intense expectations of all. When your father is Michael Jordan, the greatest player to ever play the game, the pressure is unbearable. Jeff Jordan's career was filled with struggles and transfers. After a couple of years at the University of Illinois, he quit the team, only to return later. But it was clear, he wasn't the next Michael Jordan. Marcus, on the other hand, had a bit more success. He played at the University of Central Florida, where he showed promise and led his team to a state championship. But despite averaging 15 points per game in his sophomore year, it became clear that Marcus just wasn't cut out for the NBA. He was undersized, and his lack of a consistent offensive game left him vulnerable in the highly competitive league. The stories of Zaire Wade, Patrick Ewing Jr., and the Jordan brothers show us just how tough it can be to live up to the legacy of a basketball legend. No matter how hard they worked or how much potential they had, the weight of their father's greatness was simply too much to bear. They say you can't help the name you're born with, but sometimes that name is all people see. And when the expectations are set too high, even the best talents can fall short. What do you think? Can any of these NBA Nepo babies break free from their father's shadow, or will they always live in their legacy's shadow? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.